Okay, I think that we can start. So hey, welcome everybody to our Nordic Innovation House Asia webinar. We have our teams here with us today to share all the latest information from Asia. So our teams from Singapore, me, myself, and my colleague Jackie. And then we have Bin Johansson from Hong Kong and Tokyo, Niklas Karvonen, and then Akiko Shiona with us today. Great. Let's have a quick recap about the house rules as usual before we start. So please note that this session will be recorded. Then the recording and the presentation decks will be shared with all the participants in 24 hours. And we do have a Q&A session then at the end. So you can, during that time, post your questions to the chat. And please remember to indicate to which house your question is for. Very good. Then let's have a quick look at our agenda. So we're just gonna quick do welcome and intros. And then first we're gonna spend the first 15 minutes to talk about a little bit about Nordic Innovation House Singapore. Then we go to Hong Kong. And then the last but not least is Nordic Innovation House Tokyo. And then we have that 15 minutes for the Q&A. And also wanted to highlight this thing that why we are actually doing these webinars is, of course, this year has been quite challenging for everybody, and our usual road trips and travel back to Nordics hasn't been possible. And of course, we wanted to stay in touch with our Nordic communities and colleagues and friends and everybody there. So hence we've been organizing these webinars to basically have this dialogue open, also inform you guys that like what we are doing here in Asia, what are the latest programs, what are the different latest activities, innovation challenges, and whatnot in the different locations. So these are the areas what we're going to cover today. I also noticed that there's quite a lot of new friends with us today, which is great. So each of house will also spend a little bit time to talk about that, how do they operate in the different markets before they go to the programs. Great. But with that, let's then start. So for all of our new friends, just a quick recap, what is Nordic Innovation House? So essentially, we are basically what we call as a community platform, which then helps and supports and accelerates high quality Nordic tech startups, scale-ups, and growth companies that are coming to these different locations where we have our offices. And obviously, one of the key values how we are helping companies is to helping them to connect to the right ecosystem stakeholders in different locations. We are supported by the Nordic Council of Ministers and Nordic Innovation, which is headquartered in Oslo. And I would say that we are quite unique collaboration across the Nordic countries. Besides Asia, we actually have two other locations as well, Silicon Valley and New York. Silicon Valley was our first office, followed by then the New York and then Singapore, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. But currently, those 5 houses globally in these very vibrant ecosystems to support Nordic tech companies. Great. Okay, so let's go first through the Singapore setup. So I always see that it's quite important for people to understand Singapore's role in Southeast Asia, to really understand the Singapore and all the opportunities, what do we have here. So Singapore is really that gateway to the Southeast Asia market, which has more than 650 million people. It is really the kind of like the regional hub where all the MNCs are having their regional headquarters and running the businesses from Singapore, covering the region, which means that then the decision makers and money and the corporate innovation teams are usually here. And currently Singapore has over 130 different co-innovation labs. And for example, in the fintech space, there is already 40 plus. And if you want to read one good report from Southeast Asia, I highly recommend this Southeast Asia e-economy report, which is done by Google Temasek campaign, and the link is here on the deck. So that gives you quite a good understanding that like where this internet economy in Southeast Asia and the different verticals is heading, and how it's also been developing during the last couple of years. And behind that link, you can also find the previous year's report, so you can see how the progress has been. Good. So quick recap about our members and who are usually joining us. And like I said, Singapore has this unique role because it's the regional hub. And And usually, how do we engage them with the Nordic companies? And of course, everything starts from that exploration phase when you are coming here to these new markets and you start doing your market validation, start understanding the markets and the different players and the stakeholders and start gaining the insights. And for us, usually this is the first time when we start engaging with many companies. And for example, good vehicle for this is our virtual market entry programs, where we are really helping companies to, like I said, gather the information, understand the markets, but also then immediately start connecting with the potential business partners. And of course, if that phase goes well, then you usually want to establish your permanent presence here in Singapore. And in that phase, we can also help you to connect you with the different trusted service providers here who can help you with all the legal things like work permits and incorporation. Obviously, usually you need to a place where to work and live, and at that point when you start hiring. So we do have a good network covering all these different service providers. And of course, usually then companies, once they have established well the Singapore setup, then they start looking at the region and what would be the potential next market. And because we work very closely with the different TPOs, so usually then they have more resources to support on that expansion journey. But we do have a good platform to support you guys. And of course, it's also good to understand that like when would be the right time to come here. Of course, Singapore and Southeast Asia is constantly looking for new solutions. They love all kind of platforms, the unique tech solutions. But it's also kind of like good to understand that it requires quite a lot of the companies to come here. So it's good that you are ready. You have allocated enough resources and time and money for this expansion journey, because it's something what you are not able to tackle in 6 months. And of course, then the reason why to come here is really to tap into that high scale and growth population here in Southeast Asia. Then the different benefits what we can provide to our members, of course, is that network access is quite crucial. So helping you to connect with the right people here. We do have also mentorship programs. We do have investor in residence here in Singapore. And of course, we are part of this Nordic platform here in Singapore. So through us, you can have access for all the TPOs, so trade promotion offices like Business Sweden, Innovation Norway, Embassy of Finland, and Promote Iceland. Community plays, of course, important role. So through us, you can have a good access to that Nordic community, but we also see that it's important, and through us, you have a good access for the Southeast Asian and Singaporean startup community. So that is also something what we can provide. For example, in our co-working space where we collaborate very closely with Antler. And of course, different kind of visibility opportunities for the company. So besides the social media and the news, of course, we want to push and try to get speaking opportunities for our members in the different events here in Singapore, which has, for example, happened this week when Singapore has been running the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology, Singapore FinTech Festival, and Tech Innovation, where almost 20 Nordic companies have been on the stage. So let's talk about then the 2021. In Singapore, our main themes are, again, these three. So circular economy and sustainability is one key theme area. And under that theme, of course, we are doing a lot of different kind of activities. But for Nordic participants, I would say one of the key things would be our virtual market entry program, which will focus on waste, water, waste to value, renewable energy type of solutions. And we decided to run this program in April 2021. So fairly quickly in the beginning of January, we start releasing more details about the program and what's included. Our Med and Health Tech program will take place then in August, and our Smart Cities program will take place in October. And why the virtual is in bracket? Of course, we are very closely monitoring the COVID situation and when the vaccine will come and when the travel bans are lifted in Singapore. So we definitely want to consider of organizing a physical market entry program then later on this year. And if you want to see some examples from our programs this year, so we did two Nordic Health program and a Smart Cities program. there is a link again here to our website, which kind of summarized nicely the health program. So this year programs were focusing on building the package around concrete problem statements from Singapore, having problems or stakeholder introduction webinars, and then we had a lot of preparation webinars with the program participants. We did coaching for them, and then the program actually lasted 2 weeks. The first week was more on meeting these different stakeholders in groups and pitching to them, and then the second week we had investor pitching sessions, closing event, and most of the time was actually dedicated for those one-to-one meetings then with the different stakeholders. But behind that link, you can find more information and more details about the programs. And like I said, we will come back, especially for the virtual wastewater and waste to value market entry program quite quickly in the beginning of January. And of course, you can always subscribe our newsletter to make sure that you don't miss any important details. I want to highlight and share also today a couple of active challenges here in Singapore, even though we are coming to the end of 2020, but Singapore, I would say, never sleeps, and it's a machine which is always on, and that also covers all these different innovation challenges, what the different stakeholders are announcing here in Singapore. And in the sake of the time, I'm just going to quickly, very briefly touch base some of these, but again, this deck will be shared with all the participants, so then you will get all the important details from there. But let's start with the healthcare and healthcare Open Innovation Challenge, where the deadline is actually coming quite quickly. It's 21st of December, but it's focusing. Again, it's a very good challenge because you have multiple public healthcare sectors involved, and it's focusing on these three different challenge areas which are highlighted here. But it's also good to kind of take a note that they're looking for companies who are open for different kind of co-development solutions. So which means that then you're able to access different partners in Singapore who are also then open to co-development some kind of solutions with you. Perhaps it can be in the form of joint venture and things like that. And maybe if one key thing about the Singapore healthcare system, it's during the last couple of years, it's clearly kind of like heading to the direction where this whole patient-centric care and approach is playing a bigger and bigger role. And personally, I see that this is an area where the Nordic companies have been really, really good already for decades. So that obviously means that then there are plenty of good opportunities here in Singapore. Let's move forward then, and then the next one is Healthcare InnoMatch, which is run by the CHISL. The submission deadline is 12th of February. The challenge areas are basically here, and as you can see, they have indicated that this digitalization to NHS patient care journey and experience is one of the focus areas. So again, that is one remarkable area which is getting more and more attention here in Singapore. And then the partnering hospitals, you can find them there. But again, all the three main public healthcare clusters are actively involved. And under each of these clusters, there are tens of smaller hospitals, special clinics, and universities. And again, more details can be found behind that link. Then if we move then to the different areas, which is the sustainability, there is a very big push also in this area from the Singapore side. And one of the biggest challenges are this Capital Land Sustainability X Challenge. Capital Land is one of the biggest household names in Singapore in this property development, but they have emphasized a lot recently sustainability aspect, and they're constantly looking for different solutions from the startup field. Challenge areas are low carbon transition, water conservation and resilience, waste management and the circular economy, and healthy and safe buildings. And again, more details behind the link. Let's stay in the sustainability. one quite a big challenge is also the Sustainability Open Innovation Challenge 2020, which is run by Enterprise Singapore and IPI. They do have the enterprise and industry track. And for example, on the industry track, it's more focused on different co-developments with the different stakeholders in Singapore, and then the enterprise track is more individual statements. You can see the different challenge owners here. During the tech innovation, they had a lot of information sessions about this challenge, and I have to say they're quite exciting. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of big players again involved from Singapore side. You can see the different problem statements areas here by multiple stakeholders. So I highly recommend to check all the details behind the link and what kind of problem statements there are from each stakeholder. Great. Let's stay in the sustainability, and one of the challenges which is actually closing fairly soon, so 18th of December. So if you're keen to participate, that highly recommend that you submit your solution fairly quickly. This is more on environmental services and IoT, and I would say data-driven challenge. Again, Capital Land is one of the players who is involved here, also National Environment Agency. And again, more details then about the problem statement behind the link. Then if we move to the smart cities, one, I would say, fairly new and quite a big development in Singapore is the Smart Urban Co-Innovation Lab, where also, again, Capital Land is one of the key players, but the lab is run by Airmaker. And the lab was recently launched. There's also a link here to that launch PR news, what they did. But they are basically, again, constantly running multiple challenges in different thematic problem statement areas. And I have highlighted here the two active ones which are open at the moment. Other one is focusing more on the geospatial data management by GeoWorks. And then the other one is more focusing on estate facility management, and that is run by Capital Land. And if you are new to Singapore, I would highly recommend it, like, follow closely this lab, because we visited them a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say that their corporate partnership list is really, really remarkable. For example, Kone from Finland is part of their lab partners. So really looking forward to, we are really looking forward to do much more collaboration with them in 2021. Then moving forward, the last challenge, what I want to highlight today, which is, I would say, a little bit broader, but the reason why I want to highlight is because it actually covers quite a lot of different verticals, what you can see on your right-hand side, and it's also digital health and health tech are highlighted, but among many others. This is run by Enterprise Singapore and Economic Development Board and IMDA. And what makes this challenge unique is that this is really focusing on those big corporate conglomerates in Southeast Asia. So it's not only Singaporean companies, but there are also big companies from Malaysia, Thailand, and so on involved, which again makes it very, very interesting and attractive for the startups and scale-ups and growth companies. Again, more details behind the link. And before I close, just for all those new participants, also Singapore operates through the membership fees, and as all of our other locations, here are our annual membership fees. And like I said, we operate in a co-working space, but we don't own that co-working space, but it is possible for the Nordic companies to sit next to us if they are sending the first man or woman on the ground from the Nordics to Singapore. In Singapore, our team has people from Business Sweden, Embassy of Finland, Innovation Norway, and Promote Iceland. And of course, all the embassies and ambassadors are actively supporting our activities here in Singapore. Here are some of our partners. And if you want to find out more about Nordic Innovation in Singapore, me and my colleague Jackie, we are here today. Also, our contact details are here, and you can find more about us in the channels. Thank you very much. And Niklas, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Sami. I think we're going to have Bin in between, but Bin, I'm controlling your slides, so just let me know when you're ready.
Yes, please. Hi, this is Bin Johansson calling from Hong Kong. And just like when Sami presented, we do exactly quite the same thing here, but with the local flavor of the Hong Kong and Greater Bay Area. So just before that, Sami talked about how Singapore is the heart of the Southeast Asia. I will say for me, it's the opposite side. I will talk about, I can't take the whole China. China is basically a continent, not really a country. So we have the north side of China, who is Beijing and Hebei. And then you have the west side, who is Chongqing and Chengdu, and all the area around there. And Chengdu is, for those who don't know, it's the city of the panda, where the panda comes from. And then you have the east, who called the Yangtze River Delta, with Shanghai, Nanjing, and Hangzhou as the big clusters. So what I do is a little modest. I only handle the South China, who is the Greater Bay Area, with Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Macau. Next, please. So this is me, the Greater Bay Area. And as you can see, when we come to the, if you look at the metrics, the GDP in US dollar, GDP growth rate, population, and size. So basically the Greater Bay, the GBA is size, we are biggest compared to the other Bay areas. And population, very modest. We only have a market of 71 million people. And the GDP per in US dollar, it will come. And the projection is that 2030, we will surpass all the Bay areas. Let's see if that will be the truth, because the projection of growth rate is 5.9% for now. Next, please. So this is the Greater Bay Area with basically it's 9 cities plus 2. So the 2 special zones with 1 country, 2 system is Hong Kong and Macau. And the heart is Shenzhen for the capital of innovation, and Guangzhou is the international industry center. And they are all very transportation hub and in a lot of trade and specialties. Next, please. So for the Hong Kong house, because Sami already talked about what we do, we are a soft landing platform, all houses, but with a local flavor. In the Hong Kong house, I actually have my own office, so I don't share it with co-working spaces. So when you land in Hong Kong, you basically land physically and in my place here in the middle of Hong Kong Island in Central. And I will run through different programs because this is repetitive programs that the Hong Kong House have every year. And most of them will end up in the Q4 in November, basically. And then by the end of this presentation, I will talk a little bit about the new programs that will be of interest to 2021. So let's start with the Adventures GBA Fellowship. It's for the education sector, EdTech. Hong Kong government realized that it's quite important to tag into the big market of China when it comes to the education market. And we're talking about EdTech platforms, solutions, not really the traditional way of learning. So the market is 453.8 billion RMB, almost 70 billion US dollar for 2020. So this is actually less than 2019 and 2018. So this program is very special. Basically, they fly you in here to introduce you directly to the education system of Hong Kong. And then we go to Shenzhen, and they added one more city or one more municipalities this year, is Dongguan. So if it wasn't for COVID, the first batch have already been to China by now. So the whole program was rolled out in August was the deadline. And there was 150 EdTech companies all over the world who applied, 16 from Nordics. And next, please. And there is actually one Finnish company who actually get into the program. So I'm very looking forward to Reactor, how it will go for them here. So this program will be rolling again next year. So stay tuned and follow me in LinkedIn and social media like Instagram and Facebook for the next application deadline. Next, please. Another program that is always coming back every year for the Hong Kong side, it's the Hong Kong FinTech Week. Hong Kong is still the top 5 financial hub in the world for now. And for this year, I managed to have 7 Nordic companies coming here and join us for the FinTech Week. because of COVID, everything was taken online, and instead of the normal meeting and greetings, basically it was open 24/7. So it was a very interesting experience to see everything online. And the 7 companies that joined, many of them was very impressed by it was so well organized and well, and they get a lot of connections. So the one that I highlighted, because the Nordic Innovation House have a special class for featuring certain companies that we can like tell them. So the Icelandic Meniga and the Finnish Validation Analytics have their own time to present the products and the services, and that was quite a ride for them. And the other one that I want to highlight is the old member of Nordic Innovation House in Hong Kong, the Nordic Asia Advisory Group. Here is one example. They started in the house last year, and because of COVID, he focused more on how to work, and now they open up actually another office in Shanghai. So from this platform with a network, he landed in Shanghai and Hong Kong and Stockholm. So that is an interesting ride. Next, please. Another one that I also do for the members and for newcomers who want to know more about Hong Kong and GBA is actually to have pitching contest with one of my partners. This year, Alibaba Entrepreneur Fund, Hong Kong side, together with Gobi Partners in China, they held a one-day pitching opportunity for 16 Nordic tech startups. And this year, both of them passed on the companies to invest in. But actually, Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, my other partner in Hong Kong, they picked up 5 of them, and they're actually in talk of how to take and land these 16 Nordic tech companies in Hong Kong, and then take them to Greater Bay Area. Next, please. So for the China High Tech Fair, I want really highlight this, because China High Tech Fair is very special. This is one of the biggest tech fair in China, and I think the bigger one of the bigger one is also in Shanghai. But for this, even though this year it was for the international side mostly is online because we couldn't really fly anywhere, but in Shenzhen they still have a full physical meeting. So what did we do in the house? We brought 20 companies over fully online and did different activities. So the sectors this time is 5G, AI, blockchain, big data, smart city, aviation, aerospace, and smart home and green buildings. Next, please. So for you guys who want to join this, think of this. This is a 1 week of meetings in China. So you can exhibit your own products and services in the Nordic Innovation House pavilion. And here, instead of being there physically, we have actually a virtual house. So all these companies here were actually presented in the virtual house. Next, please. And there is 3 different programs that you can do during this week. One of them is business to business meeting, and this one you have to apply for and get. And the China High Tech Fair organization have to find 2 or 3 companies to match you up with. So we managed to match these 6 companies. Atlas Primer from Iceland, because in the middle of this, they got another second round of investment, so they have to opt out this year. Next, please. The other one, the Project Financing Roadshow, you basically pitch to Chinese investors. And here is very interesting. Pitching online, you don't see them actually, and then you have to translate. We have a translator in between. So it was a very interesting pitch for me. I was really nervous for the 3 who got picked out, because it was 15 who applied. They only picked out 3 who can pitch. And we are following up right now. Optea got quite good feedback. So this is what we do like physically when you're with the house. Next, please. And after that, we are still in the follow-up work. Because the Nordic tech is very appreciated in GBA, so they are still calling now. So I'm still doing a lot of interviews to wrap up the whole high tech fair. So meeting B2B, finding investors and get exposure, and also if you were here physically, you also meet with people that maybe get some kind of sales. So the China High Tech Fair 2021, stay tuned and try to join me. Next, please. The other one is for the always coming every year is the Gerantech for the elderly care and handicapped care. So this year, because of the COVID, the house opted out. So we didn't bring any companies, but I was still in as one of the main partners. And next year, hopefully for the elder care and the handicapped care, we will have more interest. And hopefully we can fly your equipment over here to show off. This is a pure sales exhibition. So basically the company come over, they get sales. Next, please. So because we didn't bring companies here, they brought me to the podium instead. So this panel discussion was one of the most formal one I've been to. Basically, there is like TV stations of filmers, and they asked if I can do it in Cantonese. This is my first Cantonese presentation of the Nordic countries and how our ecosystem works. Quite interesting experience for me. And very new, and most of the Hong Kong panel was very impressed of how we work. You can't see it here, but the lady in the middle, she held up a little hub where how Hong Kong works. And I just said, like, the Nordic countries, we have all the knots. Every little circle they have here, we have in the Nordic countries. And to do the whole thing, they were very impressed. So it was interesting for me to present how Nordic health tech company and health tech sector works. Next, please. So for next year, the new players in town is actually the digital entertainment and gaming industry. So Cyberport have now finished up building the cave, and they're rolling out the digital entertainment for the creative industry. And the Hong Kong House is one of the main supporting partners. So this year, again, they have to take all these delves virtual. This will happen now in this weekend. And I will be there and try to connect the Nordic companies. Already have one Swedish gaming company is coming online. So this is really interesting. So stay tuned. We will bring this one either back to the Nordics or Nordics to Hong Kong. So here, next please. On next slide, you see what they're looking for. So esports, blockchain gaming, entertainment, redefining sports, and gaming and music. And creative and animation is also a big part of this program. Next, please. And we have mentioned this before. This year's food tech program was cancelled because food tech program is physical. You start in Hong Kong and then you go to Guangzhou, a cross-border program. But this program is still here. I'm talking to Brink, and we're going to bring this again next year. For the food tech cluster, please contact me if you are interested in the Hong Kong, Greater Bay Area, and the rest of China. Next, please. So this is also a new program I'm trying to do because I'm trying to work only with the GBA because China, again, is too big. And I've seen that the questions I got is repetitive. Everyone wants to know how China works, how the whole China works. And I'm trying to divide, like, when you work with China, I want to get into the China market, you really have to have some kind of strategy, some kind of 1-year plan, 3-year plan, and 5-year plan. Because as a startup, you have to hook up with the bigger Nordic companies who's already in China and sell your tech through them and then get your share of market. So this management level program is actually for understanding the whole China, how it works, the different clusters. And it is for decision makers. So if you are in a growth stage, because it's quite costly, it's 3,000 euro per person, not per company. And I limit it to maximum 10 to 15 people. So 2-3 person from each country of all of our Nordic countries. And the area of interest right now that I know of for the GBA, it's AI, big data, smart city IoTs, blockchain, cybersecurity, and fintech, and proptech and infrastructure. That is the one that the GBA and Hong Kong have mentioned for me that they are very interesting to get people over. So next page. So the next slide shows example of how this 4-5 days program looks like. So basically, it's a cross border. We're gonna start in Hong Kong, go to Guangzhou, and then land it in Shenzhen, and then back to Hong Kong to wrap up. And for me, the ambition is to make sure that you get the full pictures of how to land a company and find customers and really connect you to a B2G to the government and B2B to the businesses, and also find partners to sell for you if you cannot be physically in Hong Kong or Greater Bay Area. So stay tuned. For those who listen in now, if you're interested for details, contact me. Because I think the program can be rolled out if you can travel. The first batch will come by May, I think. And May, if May is not working, the next opportunity is in September, end of September, beginning of October. Or if this interest is big enough, I will do both. Depends on who wants to come. And the program decides on who is participating. Next, please. And the last one I'm going to present for today is the Nordic China Scalers. So the Nordic Apiary Group have been working with China for the whole China for a while, and they have set up their own company in Shanghai, in Shenzhen. And with help of the Nordic China Startup Forum, if you have followed me in LinkedIn or the social media, you've seen that there's a lot of noise from the Nordic China Startup Forum, NCSF. They are the ones, or the hubs, who is making everything happen. So basically, they have brought 100 companies since 2018 to China, the whole China. So I handle the GBA sections with the NCSF and the Nordic Apiary Group. So next year, because now they have in the pipeline already 400 companies, registered company that is interested, and we're gonna find the one who really are in the growth stage and gonna scale them. So for this, there's still 4 different blocks. So depends on what you are. When we call you, as you can see, there's a B2B focus in the industry 4.0 side, and the verticals that they are looking for is enterprise software, smart manufacturing, clean tech, and smart city. So this is the sectors we're going to work with, and I will be the one creating all the programs when it comes to the GBA and Hong Kong area. And next, please. So just like as Sammy said, so this is we are based on membership. So for startups, it's 12,000 Hong Kong dollar per year. You'll land directly in my office. This is my office in PMQ in Central. And for organizations, we have special programs for them. So just contact me if you are interested. Thank you from the house, and back to you, Nicholas.
Thank you so much, Ben, for your presentation, and greetings everyone from Tokyo. My name is Niklas Karvonen. I'm the community director here, and we are the youngest addition to the Nordic Innovation House family. So we started our operations in late May this year. So it's been about half a year for us here in Japan. In my presentation, I'll touch a little bit upon why Japan. Why did we choose Japan as our 5th location? And then we'll look into some of the key focus areas that we've identified here in Japan that we'll be looking more into in 2021 and moving forward. We'll also discuss some of the active challenges and how our membership model works here in Japan. And thanks for tuning in. And just to recap, so Japan is still the 3rd largest economy in the world by GDP. It typically ranks somewhere between 5 and 20 in terms of global competitiveness and innovation indexes, and is also a very safe and stable country to do business in. And even though it's a Nordic Innovation House Tokyo, we do cover the whole of Japan. So that's basically the market that we are looking into at our house. And in terms of the startup ecosystem, we've seen a very positive trends in terms of investments to Japanese startups here in Japan. Main cities, Tokyo, that you must all know of, but also Osaka and Fukuoka are well known of, and then there are other rising locations. In terms of what are the areas the Japanese larger corporations are typically looking for innovations in, we often talk about deep tech, so innovations in batteries, connected cars, VR, AR, mobility, wearable, and also recently in digital health and smart cities as well. And we're very happy to see that investments from Japan to Nordic startups have been on the rise. We've identified around 17 cases last year. And even during the COVID times, there's been quite a bit of traction between these regions. Hence, we thought this is a good time to set up the Nordic Innovation House here in Tokyo as well. And if you're interested in any of these investments or what kind of companies and who are investing, please check out our friends at Innovation Lab Asia. They publish all of this information online, so you can see from there how the traction looks like. But let me jump into the focus areas that we have identified for Nordic Innovation House here in Tokyo. And when we mention a focus area, so I do want to highlight that we are an industry agnostic community platform. So if you are a startup or a growth company within any tech industry, we're more than happy to have you as our member company. However, these are some of the key areas that we have identified here in Japan, that they are of interest to all the 5 Nordic countries who are involved in the project here, as well as areas that we see are of good opportunities for the Nordic companies. So starting from the digital health, Japan has some great challenges in terms of rising medical costs with the aging population. Also, there is lack of working force. This cuts across industries in general, but also in the medical fields, nurses and doctors and so on. And also has some legacy systems that are preventing some of the innovations to take place. However, we've seen quite recent discussions on some of the legislative issues that have been withdrawing innovation so far, such as telehealth, for example, and digital therapeutics. These have been quite accelerated during, of course, the current pandemic that we are living in. And we at Nordic Innovation House here in Tokyo are actually conducting a study to dig deeper into the fields within healthcare that are of great opportunities for the Nordic health companies. And we do look forward to sharing that publication with you once we are done with the study. Another field that we have identified are clean technologies. Some of you might know that Japan recently got a new prime minister, and he made a rather big announcement in October that Japan will be carbon neutral by 2050. And this, of course, ripples down into multiple different industries, but energy, transportation, mobility, industry and business related solutions, and also all the way to households and agriculture as well. Just recently, there was also a new $19 billion green fund announced by the government as well for green solutions and digital transformation solutions. So that's also a positive sign. And actually just yesterday, the governor of Tokyo announced that all new cars sold in Tokyo should be hybrids or electric vehicles by 2030. And the Nordics do also have a very positive country brand image in terms of sustainability and clean technologies here in Japan. Hence, we think that this is also an area of interest. And then the third topic is an overarching topic, digital transformation, or DX, as it's announced here in Japan. This has been on the agenda for Japanese companies for a long time, but this year has really shown some of the hurdles in terms of implementing new solutions, and some of the problems have really arisen this year. And again, there's been a new minister for digital transformation who will also establish a new central digital agency, which is supposed to start next year. So there's a lot of talk about digital transformation in Japan at the moment, and it cuts across industries such as edtech, digital health already mentioned, e-government, and work reform related topics. The message on this slide is that if you are a Nordic company or organization, cluster company, university research facility within any of these fields, we are very much looking forward to being connected. We would love to hear what are the initiatives that you are working on. Do you already have some connections to Japan? Are you already working with some of our Japanese stakeholders, for example, so that we can really find the synergies and do collaborative activities within these fields? So as we move on to 2021, we will have more and more different types of activities among these focus areas. And once we have finalized what the topics and the stakeholders are, we will then also draft programs around these initiatives, such as my colleagues already presented in their presentations. So stay tuned, especially within these areas. And already within 2020, we have actually conducted events in all of these three areas and mapped out some of the relevant stakeholders already. Besides that, there are, of course, also some calendar events happening next year. Innovation Leaders Summit is Japan's largest open innovation event. It's going to take place in March. The nominations for this event have already happened. We will be having 20+ Nordic companies attending this fully virtual event, but it is a yearly event. So please do also stay tuned for the upcoming years as well. And please get in touch if you are interested, because there is a nomination period. So if you're a company interested in, you need to be nominated. And for example, Nordic Innovation House can do that nomination for you. A lot of people in the audience must be wondering about Olympics and Paralympics next year. At the moment, the government vows for safe and secure games. At this point, there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of infrastructure being built for securing safe games. We don't know yet what is the final format that will then take place, but we do have a placeholder in our calendars for these events. So we will surely be active on that front as well. And then CTEC, I wanted to mention, it's Japan's largest IT and electronics exhibition. It usually takes place around October. This year, Nordic Innovation House was part of the program. We did a webinar with our partners. And next year, we look forward to also introducing companies at CTEC. Whether it's online or offline, we will see. And we will, of course, continue with our other recurring activities, such as our monthly Nordic Japan innovation gatherings, where we are building that Nordic business community here in Japan and fostering that knowledge and contact sharing so that not all the new companies have to go through the same struggles as the ones who've already made it here in Japan. I wanted to also highlight a couple of active programs and challenges that are ongoing. So Plug and Play Japan, Plug and Play, of course, a well-known VC and accelerator program. They just this week announced that they will be welcoming applications for their summer and fall 2021 batch. The themes are quite wide: IoT, FinTech, InsurTech, mobility, brand and retail, hard tech health, and smart cities. And they will also have a new program coming up in energy. Application deadlines there in February. And these programs will be held remote, which means that, of course, Nordic companies have it much easier to join the Plug and Play programs. Also, I wanted to highlight the Hitachi Innovation Challenge for Circular Economy. So this is a challenge. You can see the areas that they're looking for innovations in. And if you do get selected, there are opportunities to do POCs, connect to their CBOs and other collaborations with Hitachi. And deadline here, January 8th. I wanted to also take this opportunity to announce that we have also added all of this information into our website. And I dare to say that this is the first time that you can find all of these global accelerator programs in one place in English from Japan. We have identified around 15 quality programs where we think that Nordic companies who are looking for those early opportunities to test the markets and do some POCs and see whether Japan would be a good fit for your product or service. So if you're interested, please check out nordicinnovationhouse.com/Tokyo, and under our resources, you will see all of this with also the recent deadlines. Usually they happen on a yearly basis, so you can see from there. And the 14 or 15 programs we've identified cut across most of the tech industries which are of relevance to the Nordics as well. Sami already quite nicely presented our membership model, but just to recap on that, so we work on a yearly membership model which touches on 4 different fields basically. So access to networks, both public and private sector, Nordic support, and we're also able to do events and happenings on a Nordic front here in Japan, which is quite interesting to our Japanese stakeholders. So they're curious to understand how Nordics can collaborate on such a sophisticated level. And through using that curiosity, we've been able to also create some nice showcasing opportunities for the Nordic companies. On the community side, we have had most of our activities online at the moment, but we do, of course, also look forward to finally doing physical events as well. And on the visibility side, social media, newsletter activities, and then different types of showcases. So far, we've done pitching events, for example, with our partner companies. You can find all of this information from our website, but I wanted to highlight also that if you are a member company of more than one of our houses, there is also what we call a global membership prize. So please do reach out if you are already a member of the other houses as well. And these are some of the partners that we have built during our 6 months journey. And we are, of course, continuing and going deeper, especially within the focus areas of digital health, clean tech, and Nordic digital transformation. And this is the team here in Tokyo. And we're really happy that all the trade promotion organizations are located here in Tokyo. So we have very tight-knit collaboration with all the members involved. And this is just our contact information. We do also publish information in Japanese, so feel free to give a follow to our Japanese channels as well. But with that, I think I will slide into the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button that you can find from the toolbar, and we will take questions from there. Thank you from my behalf.
Great. Thank you, Niklas. And while people are fiercely typing all those questions, maybe one thing to highlight, and thanks for pointing that. So all the Nordic Innovation Houses are basically industry agnostic. So as long as you are a Nordic tech company, you can be a member and we can support you to access this market. The focus areas are more kind of like areas where we go deeper. And like Niklas said, those are the areas where we know that Nordics together has a good pool of companies that are mature enough, create solutions, what are needed in those markets. And hence these certain theme areas have selected in different markets. But if, like I said, if you are outside of these, don't worry, you can still contact and we will help you and we can work with you. I think, Niklas, there was one question for you.
Okay, let me stop sharing because on Zoom you can't see the Q&As if you are sharing. So let me see. Great summary. Yes, thank you. This was more of an appreciation to the work that we have done. Yes, this is the link to the accelerators and awards that you can find from our website.
There's one question about, can you elaborate what is meant with recent legislative topics for telehealth and digital therapeutics?
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yes, thank you for this question. So especially on the telehealth field, since the COVID crisis started and people were, of course, forced to use digital solutions. However, there were certain legislative hurdles in terms of having, for example, the first consultation with your doctor online. So that was actually not allowed. So there has been a change made into that part of the legislation during this crisis. And now we will see whether that is going to stay as it is, also after the crisis or not. That decision has not been made yet. But that's what I meant with the telehealth. And in terms of the digital therapeutics, there has been a new company called Cure App, who has received, it's been legislatorily approved as a digital therapeutic product. It's the first time in Japan, and they are also applying to receive the reimbursement from that digital therapeutics. So these are some of the recent changes that we have seen just this year. Thank you for the question, Ruben.
Okay, and I think Niklas, there's a couple of more questions for Tokyo.
Okay, yes, thank you. There's a question about JETRO, the Japan External Trade Organization. They are our partners, so we are officially partnered with JETRO. We did, for example, a digital transformation event together with them just a few weeks back, where we had 7 Nordic digital transformation companies across different industries pitching, and JETRO was in charge of gathering the Japanese audience for that event. And JETRO also offers a plethora of different kinds of services for companies who are interested in expanding to Japan. For example, free working space for a certain period of time, and then also business consultations. So we have very good connections to JETRO, and by all means, companies are welcome to use our services and JETRO services. And we do get some frequent inquiries both ways in how we could support from our behalf together. So they are a very important partner for us. I think there was a question about education products, VR education based on Finnish early childhood circumstances. I wonder if this was a question for all the houses.
Yeah, I answered on the, I typed the answer from Singapore side. So in Singapore, obviously EduTech is important. It's not one of our joint Nordic focus areas, but like I mentioned earlier, we support all the Nordic tech companies. So please contact us and then we can discuss more. I would highlight that especially Finland has quite a strong education and edtech focus here in Singapore. There is a Finnish person running actually the first edutech accelerator in Singapore and Southeast Asia. Nico, who used to run the EduX accelerator in Finland and probably used almost a decade to build that. So he has a very vast experience of how to do it and execute it. And it's also backed by the Singapore government, different agencies. So yeah, so Finland has a very strong focus, but contact us and we can discuss more.
I think there's another question by Niels in the open Q&A. Focus in Japan
yeah.
on, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So there is a question about LNG and transition towards zero emissions transport sector. I would have to look into more the details of this. So the Green Fund that was announced just the other week has a focus on hydrogen, and that has been specifically mentioned as an area that the government is looking into. So definitely innovations are around that field, and then all types of carbon capture and utilization innovations were also mentioned in that particular report. But I would have to look more into what's the future of LNG to get you a better answer at this point. But thank you for the question.
And then we had a question from Thomas. Do you plan to conduct similar programs for the other Nordic Innovation Houses, similar as Hong Kong management level program? So in terms of Singapore, we are focusing on those three key areas and running then the virtual programs, which are more, I would say, market entry focus. Because we are helping the companies to understand what is the landscape, what are the stakeholders, who is doing what, but also then doing a lot of those matchmaking sessions and stakeholder meetings where you can already start building those business relationships, plus then the investors and others. So, and also in some areas, of course, understanding also the regulatory landscape is quite important, especially in health tech. So we cover that area also. So we try to be quite concrete in Singapore and try to foster those business building relationships as much as possible in our programs. Hopefully that answered your question from Singapore side.
Yes, thank you for the question on Tokyo side as well. We're focusing on the key areas that were already mentioned. But of course, as part of this normal services that we give to our member companies, it does touch upon topics such as the Japanese business culture and how to work with Japanese stakeholders and what to expect in the process of collaboration. So I think this is covered by, to some extent, in the services that we offer. And then the Hong Kong House has identified that there is a larger need to go deeper into that topic.
Yes, just a comment from the Hong Kong House. The reason this program came up was actually, as I said, it was a lot of the repetitive questions about how to work with China, how to handle China, and how to navigate to the Chinese geopolitical situation right now. Hence this program. So it's more for those who really, both smaller ones who try to get into the market to understand the startup community with investments, because one of the questions that always pop up is the IP security questions. So we're trying to cover this in this and for this program. And when this program have been run one or twice, I will have information, more information to share with everyone. That is the idea. Thank you for the question, though.
And then we have one question from Sirpa Salmi regarding then the health topics, and if I can start from Singapore side. So we've been building the programs usually around problem statements. So first part of the process is that we engage quite heavily here with the different, let's say in health, in the public healthcare institutions to understand that like what are the problems, what they're trying to solve. And then that kind of defines a little bit the direction for the companies, like for which companies this program would be relevant. But the problem statements are usually quite broad. Some stakeholders have said that they're happy to see a big variety of the companies because they don't know what they don't know. But I would say that it, kind of like overarching themes are, like I said, that focus on patient-centric approach, so different processes, how to improve, how to enhance. Of course, data is playing an important role. All kind of platforms are very popular here. But then also we have seen very kind of like everything around diabetics also, because it's a big problem in Singapore and in Asia. So we have seen good traction with those companies providing hardware and software solutions for diabetes. Also some very specific, like to name one, Artesant from Finland providing this precision surgery planning AR/VR tool, got a lot of traction. So it kind of varies, but I would say that the big topic is that patient-centric approach and how to improve different processes, ambulatory, inpatient, outpatient, and smart ward, and things like that.
From the Hong Kong house, I've seen the trend that even though Hong Kong is very forward in a lot of space, but in health tech it's not, because data gathering, they don't have it here. So the few companies who have come here with a platform who solve how to analyze data, how to get data to the platform is very welcome. And during the panel discussion with the elder care and healthcare, basically they don't have anything in that field. Hence, there is a massive fund. It's a 1 billion fund from the Hong Kong government, Hong Kong dollar, to purchase products. So they're after real products that they can use. Everything for the elderly people, like you can do motion, bicycling, and you have this screen where you can choose to go to Paris, go to London, that kind of products. And then you have the software, and you have your chair, and you do something, and you can compete with other, like a networking building. All this kind of invention and products is very of interest for Hong Kong. So from the health side, so both right now, because Hong Kong have a bigger elderly people, I think we beat Japan to be the oldest people in the world right now. So a lot of elder care products, services, the view of how to take care of older people, it's very of interest for Hong Kong. Hope this answers your question.
All right, and it seems that we don't have any more questions at this point from the audience, and I know we are running a little bit over time. So thank you for everybody for joining us today. Oh, sorry, Tokyo. Same thing about the health.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, we were not mentioned in the list, so I was not sure if it was for us as well. Yes, the Nordics are very interesting to Japanese stakeholders within digital health because of the systems that we have in place. There are some challenges in Japan, for example, moving data between different hospitals or different doctors. It is not the same that we have in the Nordics. So there's been a lot of interest in understanding just the whole data management and how do we do that in a safe manner. So definitely patient security and information security are the typical topics that come very quickly when we enter into these discussions. Also, hospital management related tools are of interest as well. And then there is the legislatory side, but then there is the whole other side of health in the more, let's say on the wellness side. And then we get into the wearables and IoTs and tracking data and that type of health management. And now there's a lot of discussion in could, for example, Japanese corporations use for their employees these kinds of whether it's IoTs or wearables or different types of sensor technology, so that they can take better care of themselves. And this would then be included in, let's say, for example, the corporate benefits that you get for working in a certain company. So there's a lot of different types of conversation actually around this topic in Japan, if that is of any help.
Okay. So hopefully, Sirpa, that answered to your questions. And like I said, I guess we all know more once we have the problem statements, once we have the program concepts and defined and communicated, then we know kind of like, again, at least in Singapore case, like what are the areas where the what the Singapore stakeholders are looking to solve, and where do they need help open for the innovations. But I would say that in Singapore case, those med and health tech related problems or innovation challenges are kind of like giving you a little bit that picture that like what is the direction where they are heading, and what are the areas where they are really looking for different solutions. So you just get a little bit more flavor from there. But hopefully we can then touch base later on once we have the health Nordic Health Program planned for Singapore. But if no more questions from the audience, so thank you so much everybody for dialing in today and joining for us. Apologize, we run a little bit over time, but like I said, this recording and also then the deck what we went through with you today will be shared with all of you in 24 hours. So then you will have all the links and all the details, and also the contact details for Nicholas, Bin, and myself, in case there are any questions later on. And highly recommend to subscribe all of our newsletters, because that's a good way to kind of like stay in touch and hear what are the latest activities in the different locations. Great. Well, with that note, on my behalf, thanks again for joining, and thank you and stay safe.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks. Bye-bye.